Captain Jake Morrison stood at the large window of the space station, watching 5 huge alien ships come closer. The ships were bigger than anything he had ever seen before. Each one was different, built by a different alien race. They were all coming to this meeting because space pirates had been attacking ships in the outer areas of the galaxy. Jake had been chosen to represent Earth at this important meeting. He was nervous but tried not to show it. The other humans with him were also watching the alien ships arrive. Lisa Harper stood next to him. She was good at talking to aliens and understanding their ways. She had been studying alien languages for years. The first ship to arrive was from the Zephyrians. They called their ship the Stellar Dominion. It looked like a giant crystal floating in space. The whole ship was see-through and sparkled with different colors. Blue and green lights moved across its surface like waves. Jake had never seen anything so beautiful. The ship was almost 2 miles long. Lisa pointed to the crystal ship. The Zephyrians are very proud people. They think their ships are works of art. They care about making things beautiful, not just useful. The second ship belonged to the Chronari. Their ship was called the Iron Fist. It was the complete opposite of the crystal ship. The Iron Fist was black and looked like a giant hammer. It had sharp edges and weapon ports all over it. The ship looked mean and scary. Dark metal covered every inch of it. The Chronari love war, Lisa explained. They think fighting is the most important thing in life. Their ships are built to destroy enemies. The third ship was even stranger. It belonged to the Vextai, and they called it the Swarm Queen. This ship was alive. It was not made of metal or crystal. Instead, it was a living creature that had been grown, not built. The ship moved like a giant animal swimming through space. Its skin was green and seemed to breathe. Jake could see it expanding and contracting slowly. The Vextai grow their ships instead of building them, Lisa said. Their ships can heal themselves if they get hurt. They can also change shape if they need to. The fourth ship came from the Madani people. They lived in water on their home planet. Their ship was called Deep Current. It flowed through space like water, with smooth curves and no sharp edges. The ship was blue and silver, and it seemed to ripple as it moved. Parts of it looked like fins or waves. The Madani are peaceful most of the time, Lisa told Jake. But their ships can control temperature and freeze their enemies solid. The last ship was from the Nexus Collective. These were robots, not living beings. Their ship was called Logic Prime. It was perfectly geometric with exact angles and straight lines. The ship was chrome-colored and reflected the light from nearby stars. It looked like a giant computer floating in space. The Nexus Collective builds everything based on math and logic, Lisa said. They think emotions make people weak. Their ships are designed by computers to be perfect. Admiral Ben Collins was in charge of the human group. He was an old soldier who had fought in many battles. He received the first messages from each alien ship. The alien captain started talking right away, and they were all bragging about their ships. The Zephyrian captain was named Veltar. His voice sounded like music, but Jake could tell he was very proud. "Our plasma cannons can melt asteroids," Veltar said. "Our energy shields can stop any attack. The Stellar Dominion is the most beautiful and powerful ship in the galaxy." The Chronari captain was called Grateful. He sounded angry and violent. "Our armor is made from the strongest metals in the universe. We have survived attacks from supernovas. The Iron Fist has never been defeated in battle." The Vextai ship had many voices speaking at once. They called themselves the Queen Mind. "Our ship grows stronger with every battle. If you damage us, we heal. If you hurt us, we learn. The Swarm Queen cannot be destroyed." The Madani captain had a smooth, flowing voice like water. "Our weapons can freeze space itself. We can make stars go cold. The deep current controls the very forces of nature." The robot ship's computer spoke in a flat, emotionless voice. "Logic Prime has calculated every possible battle outcome. We cannot lose. Mathematics proves our victory." Each alien captain thought their ship was the best. They started arguing with each other about who was strongest. The Zephyrion said beauty was the most important thing. The Chronari said only strength mattered. The Vextai said adaptation was key. The Medani talked about controlling the environment. The robots said logic always won. Then all 5 alien captains noticed the human ship. It was called the Liberty Bell, and it was tiny compared to their giant warships. The human ship was only about 300 feet long. It looked like a small escort vessel, not a warship. The aliens started laughing. Their different types of laughter created strange sounds over the communication system. The Zephyrians' laughter sounded like breaking glass. The Chronari made grinding noises. The Vextai created a buzzing sound. The Medania's laughter flowed like water. The robots made electronic beeping sounds. What is that little thing? Veltar asked. Is that supposed to be a warship? It looks like a toy, Grateful sighed. How did the humans even get invited to this meeting? The Queen Mind spoke in harmony. Their ship is so small and weak. It cannot possibly help us fight pirates. The Medani captain sounded amused. Their ship would break apart in the first battle. It is too fragile. The robot voice was cold and calculating. Human military technology appears to be several centuries behind galactic standards. Their presence here is illogical. Jake felt his face get hot with embarrassment. The alien ships were huge and impressive, while the human ship looked like a small boat next to ocean liners. But Admiral Collins stayed calm. He had been in situations like this before. The Liberty Bell is an escort vessel, Collins said. It's designed for diplomatic missions, not combat. This made the aliens laugh even more. They could not believe that humans had brought such a small, weak ship to a military meeting. Lieutenant Amy Peterson was monitoring all the communications from the human ship. She was young but very smart with computers and radios. She noticed something that worried her. The alien ships were moving into attack positions while they talked. They said they were just showing off their abilities, but it looked like they were getting ready to fight. Sir, Amy said to Admiral Collins, I think we have a problem. The alien ships are surrounding us. They're not just bragging anymore, they're treating us like we're not important. Collins looked at the display showing the positions of all the ships. Amy was right. The aliens had moved their ships to form a circle around the small human vessel. It looked like they were preparing for battle. Not a peaceful meeting. The meeting was supposed to be about working together to stop the pirates. Instead, it was becoming a contest to see who had the biggest and strongest ship. The aliens were so busy showing off that they had forgotten why they were there. Jake watched the alien ships moving around them like sharks circling their prey. The beautiful crystal ship, the deadly hammer ship, the living creature ship, the flowing water ship, and the perfect geometric ship all seemed to be looking down on the tiny human vessel. What do we do now? Jake asked Admiral Collins. Collins smiled slightly. We wait and see what happens. Sometimes the best strategy is to let your enemies underestimate you. The first day of the meeting was ending, but Jake had a feeling that things were just getting started. The aliens thought humans were weak and unimportant. They had made that very clear. But Jake remembered something his grandfather had told him about war. It's not the size of the ship, his grandfather had said. It's the size of the fight in the crew. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, and Jake wondered if the aliens would continue to dismiss humanity, or if they would learn that humans had their own surprises. The second day of the meeting started in a large conference room inside the space station. The room was huge, with a ceiling that showed the stars outside. 5 giant screens hung from the walls, one for each alien race to use. Captain Jake Morrison sat at a small table with the other humans. They looked tiny compared to the alien delegations. Each alien group had brought dozens of representatives. The Zephyrians glowed softly in the dim light, their crystal-like bodies reflecting rainbow colors. The Chronari looked like giant insects covered in dark armor. The Vextai representatives were strange creatures that seemed to change shape slightly as Jake watched them. The Medani wore special suits filled with water so they could breathe. The Nexus Collective sent robot bodies controlled by their main computer. Admiral Ben Collins stood up to address everyone. We are here to discuss the pirate attacks that have been hurting trade in the outer regions. These pirates have been getting stronger and bolder. We need to work together to stop them. But the aliens were not interested in talking about pirates yet. They wanted to show off their military power first. Commander Veltar of the Zephyrians stepped forward. His crystal body sparkled as he activated the holographic display. "Behold the glory of Zephyrian naval might," he said in his musical voice. The screen showed images of space battles. Zephyrian ships fired beautiful streams of plasma energy that looked like colorful ribbons. The plasma beams destroyed enemy ships in brilliant explosions. We destroyed the rebel coalition's fortress moons with these weapons. 3 entire moons, each the size of a small planet, were reduced to cosmic dust. The other aliens made sounds of approval. The display showed more battles where Zephyrian ships had won using their energy weapons and shields. Their ships moved through space like dancers, avoiding enemy fire while shooting back with deadly precision. Next, Warlord Grakthul of the Chronari took his turn. His voice was deep and harsh, like grinding metal. "The Chronari do not dance around our enemies, we crush them." The screen showed Chronari ships ramming into enemy vessels. Their thick armor allowed them to survive impacts that would destroy other ships. We conquered the entire Tau Ceti system in one day. 47 enemy ships tried to stop us. We destroyed them all without losing a single vessel. The holographic display showed massive Chronari ships firing huge metal projectiles at enemy fleets. The projectiles were the size of buildings and moved at incredible speeds. When they hit enemy ships, the impacts created explosions that could be seen from other star systems. The Vextai Queen Mind spoke next. All the Vextai representatives talked at the same time, creating a strange harmony. "We do not merely destroy our enemies. We consume them. We grow stronger with each victory." The screen showed something that made Jake feel sick. Vextai bioships were surrounding enemy vessels. Instead of shooting them, the bioships were somehow absorbing the enemy ships into themselves. The Battle of Kepler Station lasted 3 days. We arrived with 20 ships. We left with 60, having consumed our enemy's vessels and made them part of our fleet. The display showed how Vextai ships could split apart into smaller vessels and then come back together. They could also grow new parts during battle, replacing anything that got damaged. It was like watching a living creature heal itself. Admiral Tidalforce of the Madani moved to the front of the room. His water-filled suit made bubbling sounds as he walked. "We do not need to touch our enemies to defeat them. We command the very forces of nature." The screen showed Madani ships creating fields of absolute zero temperature around enemy fleets. At the Battle of Frozen Nebula, we froze an entire enemy armada. 93 ships became ice sculptures in the depths of space. The holographic display showed enemy ships being covered in ice so quickly that they had no time to escape. The frozen ships then shattered like glass when they were hit by small projectiles. It was a terrifying way to lose a battle. Finally, the Nexus Collective's artificial intelligence spoke through its robot body. "Logic dictates that superior firepower and tactical calculation ensure victory. We do not rely on emotion or luck." The screen showed mathematical equations and battle plans. In the Siege of Omega Prime, we calculated 1,247 possible enemy strategies. We prepared countermeasures for each one. The enemy surrendered after losing 89.7% of their fleet. The display showed robot ships moving in perfect formation, their weapons firing with computer precision. Every shot hit its target. Every movement was calculated to cause maximum damage while taking minimum risk. When all 5 alien races had finished their presentations, they looked toward the small human delegation. It was time for the humans to show what they could do. Jake felt nervous as Captain Morrison stood up and walked to the front of the room. Morrison activated the holographic display and images of human ships appeared on the screen. Compared to the alien vessels, the human ships looked simple and basic. They were made of gray metal with no fancy decorations. They had obvious weapon ports and engine exhausts. They looked like tools rather than works of art. "Our ships may not be the largest or the most beautiful, Morrison began, but they have served us well in defending human space from pirate attacks. The aliens immediately began making sounds that their translation devices interpreted as laughter. The Zephyrians. Crystal bodies flickered with amusement. The Chronori's armor plates rattled as they chuckled. The Vextai made buzzing sounds. The Medani's water suits bubbled with what seemed like laughter. The robot representatives made electronic beeping sounds. Commander Veltar was the first to speak. Your vessels are quaint, he said, though his tone made it clear he meant the opposite. But surely you cannot expect such basic constructions to stand against true warships. They look like cargo haulers with a few guns attached. Warlord Grakeful's mandibles clicked together in what the humans had learned was Chronari laughter. The metal monkeys think their toy boats can sail with the warriors of the galaxy. Your ships have no armor worth mentioning. Our weapons would cut through them like paper. The Vextai Queen Mind's multiple voices created a harmony of dismissal. Your ships lack the beauty of evolution. They cannot adapt, cannot grow, cannot heal themselves. They are dead things that will remain dead. When we destroy them, Admiral Tidalforce spoke in his flowing liquid voice. Your ships burn with primitive chemical rockets. Where are your environmental weapons, your ability to control the forces of nature? You fight like children throwing rocks. The Nexus Collectives. I delivered what felt like the final insult. Probability calculations indicate a 97.3% chance of human vessel destruction in any engagement lasting longer than 4.7 minutes against our superior technology. Your tactical options are limited by your primitive design philosophy. Dr. Emma Watson, the human scientist studying alien behavior, watched the aliens' reactions carefully. What she saw worried her. The aliens had moved beyond simple bragging. They were now actively insulting humanity and dismissing them as inferior. This was dangerous territory. Jake noticed that the aliens had stopped talking about the pirate problem entirely. Instead, they were focused on showing why humans did not belong at this meeting. The Zephyrians thought humans were too crude. The Chronari thought humans were too weak. The Vextai thought humans were too static. The Medani thought humans were too primitive. The robots thought humans were too illogical. Captain Morrison kept his calm, but Jake could see a muscle in his jaw twitching. We appreciate your observations about our technology, Morrison said carefully. Perhaps we could return to discussing the pirate threat that brought us all together. But the aliens were no longer interested in cooperation. They had begun to see humans not as allies, but as a weak species that needed to be controlled or ignored. The meeting was falling apart, and worse, it was becoming hostile. Commander Veltar spoke again, his crystal form pulsing with arrogance. Perhaps it would be better if the humans simply told us where the pirates are hiding. We can handle the actual fighting while you provide support services. The other aliens agreed immediately. The Chronari offered to use humans as scouts. The Vextai suggested humans could carry supplies. The Medani thought humans could repair damaged ships. The robots calculated that humans would be most useful in non-combat roles. Lieutenant Amy Peterson, who had been quietly monitoring all communications, leaned over to Admiral Collins. Sir, they're not treating us as equals anymore. They're talking about us like we're servants, Collins nodded grimly. The situation was getting worse by the hour. The aliens had dismissed human military capabilities so completely that they were now planning to use humans as support staff while they handled the real fighting. Jake watched the alien representatives talking among themselves, ignoring the humans entirely. The beautiful crystal beings, the armored insect warriors, the shape-changing bio-creatures, the water-dwelling environmentalists, and the logical machines had all decided that humanity was not worth their respect. The irony was not lost on Jake. The aliens had called this meeting to deal with pirates, but they were so busy showing off and putting down humans that they had forgotten about the real enemy. Meanwhile, the pirates were probably planning their next attack while the galaxy's defenders argued about who had the biggest guns. The third day of the meeting began with even more tension than before. The 5 alien species had spent the night doing practice battles near the space station. Each group was trying to show off more than the others. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the observation deck as the alien ships performed incredible displays of power. The Zephyrian ship Stellar Dominion created beautiful light shows with its plasma weapons. Streams of colorful energy danced through space like aurora patterns. The lights were so bright they could be seen from hundreds of miles away. The crystal ship spun and twisted as it fired, making the light show even more spectacular. The Chronari ship Iron Fist demonstrated its kinetic weapons by destroying a small asteroid field. The massive projectiles moved so fast they were just streaks of light. When they hit the asteroids, the explosions created new stars for a few seconds. Chunks of rock the size of buildings were turned into dust. The Vextai bioship Swarm Queen did something even stranger. It split apart into dozens of smaller ships, each one a living creature. The smaller ships flew in perfect formation, then came back together to form the original vessel. It was like watching a school of fish that could merge into one giant fish. The Madani ship Deep Current created a field of ice around several large rocks. The ice formed so quickly that it trapped the rocks in perfect crystal spheres. Then the ship used small weapons to shatter the ice, creating a shower of sparkling fragments that looked like diamonds. The Nexus collective ship Logic Prime moved in geometric patterns that were mathematically perfect. Every turn was exactly calculated. The ship fired its weapons in sequences that created complex patterns in space. It was like watching a computer draw pictures with laser beams. Each demonstration was followed by more bragging about how superior their technology was. The aliens had completely forgotten about the pirate problem. Instead, they were having a contest to see who could impress the others most. Lieutenant Amy Peterson was monitoring all the communications from the human ship Liberty Bell. She reported to Admiral Ben Collins that the alien conversations were getting more hostile toward humans. They were not just dismissing human technology anymore. They were starting to talk about humans as if they were a problem that needed to be solved. Dr. Emma Watson had been studying alien behavior for years. She understood their body language and social signals better than anyone else on the human team. What she saw worried her greatly. "Admiral," she said, "they're not just ignoring us anymore. They're starting to see us as a threat that needs to be eliminated before it grows stronger." Collins nodded grimly. He had been in enough wars to recognize the signs. The aliens were moving from dismissal to hostility. Soon they would move from hostility to action. The breaking point came during the afternoon session. The 5 alien species had gathered in the main conference room again. But instead of discussing pirates, they continued their displays of superiority. The insults toward humanity had become more direct and more cruel. Warlord Grateful of the Chronari stood up, his massive form casting a shadow over the human delegation. His armor plates rattled as he spoke in his harsh, grinding voice. "Your presence here is an insult to the very concept of military might. Your pathetic escort vessel could not defend a cargo hauler, let alone contribute to this alliance." The other aliens made sounds of agreement. The Zephyrian's crystal bodies pulsed with approval. The Vextai created a buzzing harmony. The Madani's water suits bubbled with what sounded like laughter. The robots made electronic beeping sounds. Commander Veltar's musical voice had turned cold and sharp. "Perhaps it is time for a practical demonstration. Let your ship face even one of ours in combat. When it is reduced to stellar dust, we can proceed with serious negotiations among actual military powers." The Vextai Queen Mind spoke with awe. Her voices at once. The educational value of watching human technology fail would be significant. We could learn much about primitive engineering by studying the wreckage. Admiral Tidalforce of the Madani moved his water-filled suit closer to the humans. It would be like watching ice melt under a star's heat, quick, inevitable, and instructive. The Nexus Collective's AI calculated out loud. Such a demonstration would resolve the question of human military relevance with 99.7% certainty. The probability of human victory approaches 0. Captain Morrison felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. If he refused the challenge, it would confirm everything the aliens believed about human weakness. They would exclude humanity from the galactic community entirely. But if he accepted the challenge with their small escort vessel, it would be suicide. The Liberty Bell was not designed for combat against warships. Jake watched Morrison's face. Carefully, the captain was thinking hard about something. There was a look in his eyes that Jake had not seen before. It was not fear or anger, it was something else. Something that looked almost like anticipation. "I appreciate your interest in our capabilities," Morrison said carefully, choosing his words with precision. "However, our escort vessel was not designed for combat demonstrations." The alien laughter was immediate and harsh. Even the normally emotionless Nexus Collective seemed to process this as humor. The beeping sounds from their robots almost sounded like mechanical laughter. "Of course it was not," Commander Veltar said, his voice dripping with contempt. "Your species builds tools, not weapons. You are craftsmen, not warriors. You make things that carry cargo and fix broken equipment. You are not soldiers." Warlord Grathel's mandibles clicked together rapidly. The metal monkeys admit their weakness. They came to a war council with a repair ship. The Vextai Queen Mind's harmony took on a mocking tone. They cannot even pretend to be warriors. Their honesty about their limitations is almost admirable. The Madani Admiral's liquid voice flowed with amusement. "At least they know their place. Perhaps they can be useful as maintenance workers while real warriors handle the fighting." The Nexus Collective's AI spoke with digital precision. "Logical assessment confirms humans are support personnel, not combat units. Their optimal function is in non-military roles." Dr. Watson leaned over to whisper to Morrison, "Sir, they're not going to let this go. They've moved beyond diplomacy entirely. They're testing us to see if we'll submit to their authority." Morrison nodded slowly. He understood the situation perfectly. The aliens had made their decision about humanity's place in the galaxy. They wanted humans to be servants, not equals. This was no longer about the pirate threat. It was about establishing a galactic hierarchy with humans at the bottom. Morrison activated his secure communication device and sent a coded message to Earth Command. The message was short but urgent. Jake watched as Morrison waited for a response. When it came, Morrison's eyes widened slightly and then he smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who had just been given permission to do something they had been wanting to do for a long time. "Very well," Morrison said, standing up to address the alien representatives. "You want to see human military capability in action. Give us 48 hours to arrange a proper demonstration." The aliens exchanged glances. Their various forms of communication created a babel of sounds, lights, and electromagnetic pulses. They were surprised that the humans had accepted the challenge, but they were also excited about the chance to prove their superiority once and for all. Commander Veltar's crystal form pulsed with anticipation. 48 hours seems excessive for bringing a single escort vessel into combat position. Are you planning to upgrade your weapons? Morrison's smile grew wider. Something like that. Warlord Grathel's armor plates rattled with what sounded like approval. 48 hours then. And then we shall see what the metal monkeys truly bring to the tide of war. The Vextai Queen Mind's voices harmonized with excitement. We look forward to studying your combat techniques. The data will be valuable for understanding primitive species. Admiral Tidal Force's water suit bubbled with anticipation. 48 hours to prepare for destruction. We will make it quick and painless. The Nexus Collective's AI began calculating immediately. 48 hours provides insufficient time for significant technological upgrades. Human defeat probability remains at 99.7%. As the meeting ended, Jake noticed something strange. Morrison was still smiling and Admiral Collins looked almost relaxed. The other humans seemed calm too, which was odd considering they had just agreed to what seemed like suicide. "Sir," Jake asked quietly, "are we really going to fight 5 alien warships with the Liberty Bell?" Morrison's smile became even wider. Not exactly, he said. You see, Jake, the Liberty Bell is a diplomatic escort vessel. But that doesn't mean it's the only ship Earth has. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean? I mean, Morrison said, that the aliens asked to see our military capabilities. They're about to get exactly what they asked for. The next 48 hours would be the longest of Jake's life. The aliens spent the time running more combat drills and taking bets on how quickly they could destroy the human vessel. They were completely confident in their superiority. They had no idea that they were about to learn something very important about humanity. Sometimes, the biggest mistake you can make is underestimating your enemy. The 48-hour wait felt like the longest 2 days of Jake Morrison's life. The alien commanders spent every moment preparing for what they thought would be an easy victory. They ran combat drills constantly, each species trying to show off more than the others. Their ships moved through space near the diplomatic station like sharks circling prey. The Zephyrian crystal ship Stellar Dominion practiced firing its plasma weapons at target asteroids. The beautiful energy beams turned rocks into glowing gas clouds. Commander Veltar sent messages to the other aliens, bragging that his plasma cannons would vaporize the human ship in less than 30 seconds. The Chronari ship Iron Fist tested its massive kinetic weapons by shooting building-sized projectiles at space debris. Each shot created explosions that lit up the darkness like new stars. Warlord Gregthal was confident his weapons would punch through any human armor before the humans could even aim their guns. The Vextai bioship Swarm Queen practiced splitting apart and reforming. The living vessels seemed to be getting excited about the coming battle. The Queen Mind believed their ship would simply absorb whatever weak weapons the humans had and grow stronger from the attack. The Madani ship Deep Current created practice ice fields around chunks of space rock. Admiral Tidal Force planned to freeze the human vessel solid and then watch it break apart like glass. He thought it would be beautiful and educational. The Nexus Collective Ship Logic Prime ran thousands of computer simulations. The AI calculated 847 different ways the battle could end. In every single simulation, the human ship was destroyed quickly and completely. The robots were so confident they started planning what to do with the wreckage. Dr. Emma Watson monitored all the alien communications during the waiting period. What she heard made her very worried. Captain Morrison, she reported, they're not just planning to defeat us. They're planning to use this battle as proof that humans should be under their control. They think we're too weak to govern ourselves. The aliens had begun talking about humanity as if they were children who needed adult supervision. The Zephyrians wanted to put humans to work making beautiful art objects. The Chronari thought humans could be useful as manual laborers. The Vextai wanted to study human biology. The Madani planned to use humans as servants on their water worlds. The Nexus Collective calculated that humans would be most efficient as data processors, but Captain Morrison remained strangely calm during the entire waiting period. He spent his time reading reports on his computer and making quiet phone calls to Earth. Sometimes, Jake caught him smiling for no apparent reason. It was almost as if Morrison knew something the aliens did not. Lieutenant Amy Peterson noticed Morrison's odd behavior too. Sir, you seem very relaxed for someone about to fight 5 alien warships with a diplomatic escort vessel. Morrison looked up from his computer and smiled. Amy, do you remember what I told you about the Liberty Bell? You said it was a diplomatic escort vessel designed for peaceful missions. That's right. And that's exactly what it is. But the aliens didn't ask to fight the Liberty Bell. They asked to see human military capabilities. Morrison's smile grew wider. They're about to get exactly what they asked for. On the morning of the scheduled demonstration, long-range sensors detected something approaching from deep space. The alien commanders gathered on the observation deck of the diplomatic station, ready to watch what they thought would be the quick destruction of the tiny human ship. What emerged from hyperspace was nothing like what they expected. The ship was enormous. It was 1.5 miles long, making it as large as the biggest alien vessels. But this ship was completely different from anything in the aliens' databases. where the alien ships were built for beauty, adaptation, or mathematical perfection. This ship was built for one purpose only: war. The hull was dark black, so dark it seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. The ship's surface was covered with weapon ports of different sizes. Some were small and precise, others were massive and obviously designed for destroying large targets. The ship had no decorative features, no artistic elements, no wasted space. Every inch was functional. Commander Veltar's crystal form flickered with confusion and the beginning of concern. That ... is not the vessel we observed before. No, Morrison replied, his voice carrying a note of satisfaction. The Liberty Bell is a diplomatic escort, just like I told you. You wanted to see our military capabilities. Meet the USS Vengeance, one of our Dreadnought-class battleships. The alien commander's various forms of communication erupted in surprised chatter. The Zephyrian's crystal bodies pulsed with colors that indicated shock. The Chronore's armor plates rattled with what sounded like nervous energy. The Vextai created a buzzing harmony of confusion. The Medani's water suits bubbled rapidly. The Nexus Collective's robots made electronic sounds that suggested their calculations were being rapidly revised. Admiral Ben Collins stepped forward with a slight smile. Captain Lisa Chun commands the USS Vengeance. She's one of our most experienced combat officers. She's fought in the Outer Rim conflicts that you've all been having trouble with. The arrival of the massive human warship had completely changed the situation. The aliens were no longer looking at a small escort vessel they could easily dismiss. This was clearly a ship designed by people who understood warfare very well, but Warlord Grakthul was the first to recover from his surprise. His mandibles clicked together as he tried to regain his confidence. Size alone does not make a warrior. Your dreadnought is impressive, but it faces 5 of the galaxy's most advanced warships. The odds are still 5-1 against you. The Vextai Queen Mind's multiple voices harmonized, but there was less certainty in their tone than before. Our bioship can adapt to any weapon system. Your ship appears static and unchanging. It cannot evolve during battle like our living vessel. Admiral Tidal Force's liquid voice flowed with forced confidence. Your ship burns with primitive chemical and nuclear fire. Our environmental weapons will show you what true naval warfare looks like. The Nexus Collective's AI had been silent for several minutes, running new calculations. When it finally spoke, there was something different in its electronic voice. Adjusting probability matrices for increased human vessel mass, an apparent weapon capacity, recalculating expected battle outcomes, processing ... Commander Veltar tried to maintain his superior attitude, but his crystal form was no longer pulsing with confident colors. Your ship is large, but we have seen large ships before. Our plasma weapons can melt asteroids. Your metal hull will not protect you. Captain Morrison's smile had become genuinely happy. Captain Chen, are you ready to begin the demonstration? The response came from the USS Vengeance's communication system. The voice was female, crisp, and professional, but there was an undertone of steel that made everyone listen carefully. Ready when you are, Captain Morrison. I've been looking forward to meeting our new galactic neighbors. Which of our friends would like to dance first? The alien commanders looked at each other uncertainly. The confident bragging and easy dismissal of human capabilities had suddenly become much more difficult. The ship floating in space before them was clearly designed for war, and it was as large and impressive as their own vessels. Jake watched the aliens' reactions carefully. For the first time since the meeting began, they looked uncertain. The Zephyrians were no longer glowing with confident colors. The Chronore's armor plates had stopped rattling with aggressive energy. The Vextai buzzing had become quieter and more nervous. The Medani's water suits were bubbling more slowly. The Nexus Collective's robots were still calculating, but they seemed to be having trouble reaching conclusions. Dr. Watson leaned over to Captain Morrison. Sir, they're scared. They're trying not to show it, but they're genuinely concerned about that ship. Morrison nodded. They should be. The USS Vengeance represents everything humanity has learned about warfare over thousands of years. It's not just a ship, it's a statement. The space around the diplomatic station had been cleared for the combat demonstration. The 5 alien warships took positions in a loose formation, trying to look confident and ready. But Jake could see that their positioning was more defensive than it had been before. They were no longer certain of easy victory. The USS Vengeance hung alone in the void, its dark hull making it difficult to see against the starfield. The ship was silent and still, like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. "Captain." Chion's voice came over the communication system again. "I understand you gentlemen and ladies have some concerns about human military capabilities. I'm here to address those concerns. Shall we begin?" The aliens had gotten exactly what they asked. FOR. They had demanded to see human military power, and now they were face to face with a ship that was clearly designed for serious warfare. The question was whether they were ready for what they were about to learn about humanity's approach to battle. The demonstration was about to begin, and Jake had a feeling that the galaxy was about to discover something very important about the species they had been dismissing as primitive toolmakers. The space around the diplomatic station was completely clear now. All civilian ships had moved to safe distances. The 5 alien warships spread out in a loose circle, while the USS Vengeance hung alone in the center like a dark spider waiting. In its web. Captain Lisa Chen's voice came through the communication system, calm and professional. "I understand you have some questions about human military capabilities. I'm here to provide answers. Which of you would like to go first?" Warlord Gregthul's massive Chronari dreadnought Iron Fist moved forward. Despite his earlier nervousness, the warlord's confidence was returning. After all, his ship was still enormous and heavily armed. "The Iron Fist will show you the true meaning of warfare, human. Prepare to learn why the Chronari are feared across the galaxy." The Chronari ship opened fire with its main kinetic weapons. Massive projectiles, each the size of a building, streaked through space toward the human dreadnought. The projectiles moved so fast they were just streaks of light. When they hit, they should have torn the USS Vengeance apart. Instead, the human ship simply was not there anymore. Jake Morrison watched in amazement as the USS Vengeance appeared, several miles away from where it had been just a moment before. The ship had moved faster than anything that size should be able to move. The Chronari projectiles passed through empty space, hitting nothing but vacuum. "Impossible," Commander Veltar's crystal voice crackled with disbelief. "No ship that large should be able to move like that. The physics do not allow such maneuverability." Captain Chun's response was matter of fact. "Human ships are designed around human reflexes and human thinking. We build them to move the way we fight." The USS Vengeance reappeared on the Iron Fist's left side, having somehow covered the distance in less time than it took to blink. What happened next was a lesson in precision that left all the alien commanders speechless. The human ship did not use massive plasma cannons or building-sized projectiles. Instead, dozens of smaller weapons opened fire with surgical accuracy. Each shot was perfectly aimed at specific parts of the Chronari vessel. The weapons seemed to know exactly where to hit to cause maximum effect with minimum damage. Shield generators went offline one by one. Weapon ports were sealed shut by precise impacts. Engine systems were disabled by shots that somehow found their way to exactly the right components. Within 30 seconds, the Iron Fist was floating dead in space, completely helpless, but with its hull intact and its crew unharmed. "Your turn," Captain Chun announced, her voice carrying a note of professional satisfaction. Commander Veltar's crystal ship Stellar Dominion was next. The Zephyrian vessel unleashed its plasma weapons in a display of beautiful destruction. Streams of energy that could melt asteroids reached out toward the human ship like colorful ribbons of death. The USS Vengeance danced between the plasma beams like a leaf in the wind. The ship's impossible maneuverability allowed it to avoid every shot while moving closer to its target. The alien commanders watched in growing amazement as the massive human dreadnought moved with the grace of a fighter craft. The human ship's counterattack was as elegant as it was devastating. instead of trying to break through the Zephyrian energy shields. The USS Vengeance fired what looked like simple metal projectiles. But these were not ordinary kinetic weapons. The projectiles curved through space, somehow bending around the energy shields to hit the shield generators directly. Within moments, the beautiful crystal ship was as helpless as the Chronari vessel. Its weapons were offline, its shields were down, and its engines were disabled. The crew was completely unharmed, but the ship could not fight. The Vextai Queen Mine tried a different approach. The bioship Swarm Queen split apart into dozens of smaller vessels, each one a living creature that could think and adapt. The smaller ships swarmed toward the human dreadnought, changing their shape and configuration as they flew. "Our bioships will adapt to your weapons," the Queen Mind announced. "Whatever you use against us, we will evolve to counter it." The USS Vengeance's response was unlike anything the aliens had seen before. Instead of firing weapons, the human ship released what looked like a cloud of metallic dust. The Vextai bioships flew directly into the cloud. Confident that their adaptive biology could handle any human trick, the dust turned out to be millions of tiny robots, each one smaller than a grain of sand. The nanobots swarmed over the bioships, not destroying them but taking them apart piece by piece at the molecular level. The Queen Mind's voices rose in harmony, not of pain but of complete confusion as her ships were carefully disassembled. Then, just as quickly, the nanobots reassembled the bioships in perfect formation. The vessels were completely undamaged, but also completely disabled. The Queen Mind found herself unable to control ships that had been taken apart and put back together by human technology. Admiral Tidal Force of the Madani watched the destruction of his allies with growing fear. But he still had confidence in his environmental weapons. The deep current began generating a massive ice field, planning to trap the human ship in absolute zero temperatures. "Your ship may be fast," the Admiral announced, "but it cannot escape the cold of space itself. We will freeze you solid and watch you shatter like glass." The USS Vengeance's response was to generate its own environmental field, something the aliens had never seen before. The space around the human ship began to ripple with gravitational distortions. The ice field created by the Madani ship was caught in the gravitational web and compressed into a perfect sphere. The human ship then gently returned the compressed ice to the Madani vessel as if it were a gift. The deep current found itself trapped in its own ice field, frozen solid by its own weapons. Only the Nexus Collective ship Logic Prime remained. The AI had been frantically calculating throughout the entire battle, trying to understand how the human ship was doing impossible things. Finally, it spoke. "This unit requires additional data. Human tactical and technological capabilities exceed all known parameters. However, logic dictates that continued resistance is futile." The robot ship began calculating firing solutions for its weapons. The AI was determined to find some weakness in the human ship's defenses. Mathematics and logic had never failed the Nexus Collective before. "Would you like a demonstration as well?" Captain Chun asked. "Or have you seen enough?" The Logic Prime opened fire with its precisely calculated weapons. Every shot was perfectly aimed, based on the ship's observations of human movement patterns. The AI was certain it could predict where the human ship would be. The USS Vengeance proved the AI wrong by doing something that should have been impossible. The ship phased out of normal spacetime for a few seconds, becoming completely invisible to all sensors. When it reappeared, it was directly behind the Nexus Collective vessel. The human ship did not fire its weapons. Instead, it transmitted a single data package to the AI. The Logic Prime went silent for several long moments. When it finally responded, there was something that sounded like electronic confusion in its voice. "This unit does not understand. The transmitted data appears to be a complete technical manual for this unit's construction and operation, including classified design specifications that should not exist in any external database." Dr. Emma Watson, who had been monitoring the battle from the diplomatic station, turned to Captain Morrison with wide eyes. "Sir, they just gave the AI its own blueprints." "How is that possible?" Morrison smiled. "The Nexus Collective thinks they're the only ones who understand technology. They just learned that humans have been studying them for a long time. The battle was over. All 5 alien warships floated helplessly in space, completely disabled but with their crews unharmed. The USS Vengeance had defeated ships that were considered the most advanced in the galaxy, without killing a single alien or destroying a single vessel. Captain Chun's final message was directed to all the alien commanders. Ladies, gentlemen, and artificial intelligences, humanity did not ask to be included in this meeting because we needed protection from pirates. We were invited because we have been protecting the outer territories from threats you did not even know existed. She paused to let that information sink in before continuing. The pirates you have been struggling with are not attacking you because they are strong. They are running to your territories because they are fleeing from us. The alien commanders sat in stunned silence. The species they had dismissed as primitive toolmakers had just demonstrated technology and tactics that were beyond their understanding. We build our ships not to conquer, but to defend, Captain Chun continued. Not to destroy, but to disable. Not to kill, but to protect. But make no mistake about this. When we build something, we build it to work. Admiral Collins spoke into the silence that followed. Now then, shall we discuss how to deal with those pirates as equals, or do you need another demonstration? The alien commanders looked at each other, their various forms of communication creating a confused babel of sounds and lights. The Zephyrians were no longer glowing with confident colors. The Chronory's armor plates hung still and silent. The Vexti-S buzzing had become a whisper. The Medani-S water suits barely bubbled. The Nexus Collective's robots were still trying to process what had happened. Finally, Commander Veltar spoke for all of them.